This episode of The Basic Filmmaker is brought to you by Things That Suck. Let's wrap up this series on stabilizers. As I covered in my last episode on stabilizers, I'm still missing part 4, which covers sliders, and the manufacturer hasn't released the product yet. The video is done, and when I get the green light, I'll make it public. In the meantime, here's the last things I have to say on the subject of stabilizers to wrap up the series. The whole point of stabilizers is to control how smooth your shot is, or to add movement or accentuate the scene you are shooting, and the way you do that is to get your hands as far away or completely off the camera as you can. In part 2, I covered all the things you can do with a tripod. That's shooting with your hands off the camera. Part 3, I covered Steadicam tight shots, and again, you have to have your hands off the camera. In part 4, not released yet, I cover sliders and also look at motion control jibs, cranes, and all sorts of stuff. That's getting nice Hollywood type sliding and craning shots with your hands off the camera. Well, let's look at a few more types of gear which I place in the category of handheld shooting. You have things like fig rigs, camera cages, monopods, and all sorts of low-end cheaper things. And again, these either move your hands further away from the camera or keep your hands off it. These things can be somewhat expensive. I suggest you pay the money if you're serious about getting really good shots. I definitely advise you to try and DIY these things out of PVC or whatever you want, get experience using them, but remember, PVC and other materials still bend, which means they're not going to give you exactly what you want and they don't last. These items are manufactured for a specific purpose. They're made to do what they're supposed to do. In other words, stop trying to game the system. This filmmaking stuff costs money. For instance, I use this very stout camera cage rig mounted with my tripod on my quick release plate. Why? It doesn't ever move. It mounts all the gear I need, mics, monitors, sound recorders, you name it, onto the rig itself. When I want to use a slider or a jib or a shoulder rig or a crane or a fig rig or anything, since I have these quick release plates on all my gear, I simply slide the whole cage off and mount the whole thing onto the piece of gear I need. If I had to disassemble and reassemble everything each time, I would end up wasting a lot of time, and I like to shoot, not mess around with gear. Anyway, the point of all this is so you know what things are available and you know what things you can use for what types of shots. If you're shooting handheld shots, your choices are a cage with a handle, a fig rig, a shoulder rig, and items like that. You're only concerned, maybe, with focusing while you're running and gunning, and for that you would mount a focus device like this one here on the shoulder rig, or you would use an aperture that keeps more in focus, or you would set the focus on the subject you're filming and just stay at that distance. Again, if you have to adjust focus while you're filming, you just want to keep your hands off the camera so you don't bump it around. All you're trying to do is film a subject or a scene and not have it shake all over the place and stay in focus. So let's get to the bottom line here. What kind of stuff do you need to buy to film something? Well, you need at least a camera. And if you set up your shots and hold the camera still enough, you're good to go. Then you can add a tripod if you wish to do pan and tilt shots, which, by the way, if you're careful and practiced enough, you can also do by hand. Then if you want to add dolly in or out or sliding shots, you get a slider. If you want to get a shot with that flowing, flying, following awesomeness you see in movies, you get a Steadicam. If you wanted to do large up and down shots, then get a jib or a crane. If you want to do more run and gun shots and have it be shaky, you would get a fig rig or a cage with a handle or whatever you think you need. And that's all well and good, and yes, you should buy all that stuff. And yes, you should learn how to use them all effectively, and yes, you should buy the best ones you can get your hands on. But let me point out how this actually goes. You may miss this point, as in Hollywood, everyone knows what they're doing with the gear they have, and they have pretty much access to anything they want. So where does your film or video start? Well, the story or the script or the screenplay or the content. And if that sucks, I don't care if you shoot it on Arri cameras and have a $500 million budget and the best crew in the world, your film or video will still suck. So the place to start practice, get really good at, is your story or your script or your screenplay or your content, whatever it is that you're going to make. That's the first point of failure. The second point of failure is not the camera or the lens, it's the person shooting the story or the screenplay or the video. If you don't know how to use the camera or the lens, then what you're doing is doomed. I don't care if you're shooting on an iPhone or you just got your hands on a Blackmagic Ursa with all the goodies, your film or video will suck because you never learned to practice how to use the camera, the focus, or set the scene up or light it. So, you need a good camera, good lens, and more importantly, you need to use it enough to know what it can do. So now you've got something to make your film or video with, and you've written or someone else has written a good story or screenplay or interesting content. If you need to record sound, then get something that will record good sound and work and practice with it until you are satisfied you can get good sound. Cool, go shoot it. It will be awesome as long as you use your creativity and your gear to tell the story to present your video. Now, as you've seen, all these pieces of gear and gadgets have a purpose and they add to the visual impact of your good story. If you have money and you need these for what you're doing, then go get it, go learn it. Find out what they can and can't do, practice with them, know how to use it. Go shoot your story and go produce your video. If you don't have the money, then come up with another idea. I'm on a set with some knucklehead who forgets to bring the dolly card or the slider or something else, and I need to get a shot of 2 people at a table. Fine. Drop the camera onto a smooth granite counter that is in the room with a longer lens and slide the camera across the counter. Done. The point is, your lack of additional gear and money is not and will not ever be the reason you can't create something. Your ability to know what you can do with what you have, your ability to be creative and come up with solutions, your unreasonable attitude about not trying to shoot something you know sucks, your commitment to creating a story or actual content that people will be interested in watching is how you make great things. All that extra gear is just a tool, a convenience, something to save you time or make it easier for you to tell your story or create your content. So yes, spend money on all the stabilizers and gear and gadgets and new cameras you want to. They're fun, they save time, and they really help add to the creations you'll make. Just don't be fooled into thinking that some new gear or gadget or the latest stupidly priced camera is going to automatically spit something awesome out for you. They're just tools that make it easier for you to do what you want to do. You are the filmmaker or content creator or artist. You're the one that's going to create something awesome that you or other people enjoy, and you're the one that's going to create it with whatever tools you have to hand. We're filmmakers, and that's what we do. I hope this helps, and as always, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, thanks for being a filmmaker. Okay, let's test a hand shot. Look at this. Oh shit.